Hello, Ilona Thompson with Palette Exposure. It's actually my favorite day of the week. We're recording in COVID time, so everything blends, but this is literally something I look forward to on a weekly basis. I don't know if you guys have seen the movie, one of my favorite films, before it became a cult and a Christmas classic. It's called Love Actually. And there's a great scene there when one of the protagonists is taking his girl home, who was a housekeeper at the time. And he says, "This is my favorite time of day, taking you home. This is my favorite time of the week, talking to Michael." I just get all happy. So let's get out of the way. But
same for me. It's something, it's a wonderfully human moment for both of us. I think that I'm glad we've gotten into this habit and this schedule, because it's been so easy. Just every day sort of goes by. You have things, you try to stay busy. I have Max and Cece, they have their school. You try to stay on top of them. We got a fuller house to take care of, but it's really bizarre how quickly 1 week can go by. Strange when you feel like you're actually, you're forced to almost sit on your hands with business activity or even personal life stuff. But I gotta say, it's becoming extremely strange how quickly this time just seems to go. So anyway, for me, also one of the best times of the week.
Thank you so much. And I really love this. You just said kind of the concept of time. It is racing by for me as well. The odd thing is what I'm seeing on the internet is everybody's bored to tears and like doing weird dances and cooking a lot. Apparently everybody's baking because California's out of flour, which is great. I guess it's a comfort thing, right?
Yeah.
Makes your house smell nice. I guess that's what the realtors do, right? When they show the home, they bake bread.
Oh, right.
Anyway, it's just the time for a lot of people seem to stretch, is what I'm hearing and reading. For you and I, interestingly enough, it's racing by at breakneck speed.
Yeah.
I've been doing a lot of recording, with various cool individuals, and that's certainly helping, because by the time you prep and talk and do the postmortem, it's like my day evaporated.
That's good.
But it's good. I'm loving it. And the time, just as a concept, the most priceless commodity.
Yeah.
Really, there's nothing as valuable. And people often measure, self-worth in friends and maybe self-worth in a bank account and such like that. But I really would encourage everybody to think what time represents in their world. Because it's not only priceless, but if it's well spent, it's also life well lived.
Yeah, and it truly is. There's things you can't buy, but yeah, like you say, time becomes truly priceless, because there is no getting it back. There's no buying it. There's ways we as humans try to extend our time, take care of ourselves, I guess, or this, that, the other thing. But you only live once, as they say, and yeah, there's no bringing it back, taking it back. There's no paying for it,
Yeah, absolutely. People try. Just to digress a bit, I mean, think about this whole cryogenic stuff, and think about the billion-dollar cosmetic industry that's aimed at what?
Oh, yeah.
More youthful.
Yeah.
Health industry, all the vitamins we shove in ourselves. We're just really trying to extend, to stretch the hands of time.
Yeah.
And we spend all this time trying to stretch it. We're actually not necessarily living in a moment at times.
Well, there you go. I like that concept. This is that again, that's a Buddhist sort of concept too, but it is being of the moment, or trying to, and that's not necessarily an easy thing to do. And it's a, there's a fine line from just, let's say, being completely, what some might say, reckless in the moment, just living life without a care, in the world. That's not really what in the moment is. I don't think in the moment is the appreciation for the now, the appreciation for what is happening right at that moment. It doesn't deny you shouldn't be planning, preparing for the rest of your life, taking care of family if you have it, paying attention to friends and other things. It's much more of just a presence and awareness, and that's like the best thing we can do. As far as I can see. I'm not saying not an easy thing, but it's being aware of the moment. And that becomes actually extremely helpful, especially in times like this where enormous amount of stress, anxiety, uncertainty. If you can keep your head somewhat focused on some kind of positive, some kind of something that keeps you from, going down the spiral of negativity and defeat and, especially the anxiety of uncertainty. We have no idea. Nobody knows what's going to happen,
Absolutely. So whenever something happens like dramatic and really makes you sit up and take notice, like let's just say a health crisis, not necessarily even COVID, but let's just make it personal. If that happened, you become protective of your time because you realize it's quite finite. It's in your face. It's not a theory. And so it becomes this endangered species. And I, for one, am very aware of it. And, the way that I choose to spend my time, hopefully wisely most of the time, and certainly honoring it with people such as yourself, I really feel like I'm living my life to the fullest. It's not in existence, but it's thriving for me.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I think a lot of us are spending a lot of time with is social media these days.
Yeah.
And if you guys recognize Michael, yes, he's a reality TV star, which is a whole other realm, because what it used to be is actors, before the social media is taking the world by storm, is actors playing characters. And sometimes people associated actors with characters, but there's also that awareness that it's really a different entity. Whereas with reality television, it's often people playing themselves. And then the folks can get enough, so they storm the social media in their spare time.
Yeah.
And they basically get extra helpings, especially if you are really in love with that show or, really following their persona. And now you have access to them to social media on Twitter and Instagram. And that becomes a whole other world, and managing it is a whole other situation.
Yeah.
So it's a really interesting dynamic to me. First of all, it's a giant time suck. Just let's face that, because if you looked at the Instagram, if you mine the data, you can actually determine how much time you spend every day. And I was shocked to discover that it's like 2 hours.
Wow.
On some days, yes. When I was actually
that's no small amount of that's no small chunk of time.
Yeah. That's like a huge part of your day.
Yeah.
And I was doing business stuff. I do it for business reasons. So, not a justification, just saying that's why I do it. But a lot of people do it for personal reasons.
Oh, sure.
And, these days everybody went digital because of the necessity. Like in the wine space that I live a lot in, a lot of people are doing virtual tastings and they do chats through Instagram. And the thing is, it's mostly boring to watch because, again, to kind of tie it into the whole virtual reality concept or another persona, most people are not that interesting, which is why a lot of the reality shows are scripted. Because if we actually showed up as ourselves, it's like, really? Why would I watch that?
Yeah.
It has to be an exaggerated persona. Yeah, it has to be like somebody that you're not, but you sort of are. You just look like them. So it's a whole like subtext that's so bizarre to me. I don't quite understand it, but it's fascinating to watch. And it all flows to social media and this, balloons into all this discussions. I had such a good time with Michael. He divergenized me in the sense that I've never done a live Instagram chat before.
It was fun.
It was so much fun. But that's like the extension of that as well. It's like you're on social media, it's real time. But people that are coming and going, like the revolving door, when people are entering the chat, that's a whole other dimension to it. So I've been talking a lot because clearly I have a lot to say after having a cup of coffee and a workout. So I really want to listen now because you have such an you've populated all of this pieces of this giant mosaic more than the rest of us. Mm-hmm. What is it all about for you? What's it like? Like, I'm just dying to find out.
I would say for me personally, it's,
reality. Hi,
the timing is good because Juliana's personally much more savvy at this, and obviously much more appealing, I think. What we're talking about is using social media.
And you're an expert in it, by the way.
Okay, well, I'm recording.
I would love to hear your perspective too. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so so we have this platform now, having been on this show, and now there's a broader audience. But actually, going into the show, Juliana already had a presence in her own world, her world of modeling, on Instagram as just what you would call, a working model, with good opportunities and good jobs, good portfolio, good photos to put out there, good videos and what have you. She already had over 40,000 Instagram followers before we did the show, right?
Wow.
That's a pretty good presence. That was totally natural too, not bought, not nothing. So for her, in her world, it's different than maybe the way I approach it. And so I'm fairly like modest and not necessarily ego driven. I'd rather have like a presence on social media that I felt was real and honest, and it was appealing to people that really cared about what I had to say or post, and if they don't, then don't. I guess I wouldn't. Me personally, I don't want to make a show of something for the sake of having some big audience. I don't have an ulterior motive of, get several million Instagram followers so that you can be an influencer and get paid to do this or that. It's so weird. There's an opportunity that we get with especially being reality TV personalities, which is this. There's an application called Cameo. I don't know if you've heard of Cameo.
I've heard of it, but actually have no idea how it works.
Well, Cameo, we don't do it, and we specifically decided not to do it. But Cameo is, if you're some sort of, celebrity of some kind, but reality TV people, many of them sign up and do this, for $50 or $40 or whatever it is. People will pay you to send messages, and they may do it, say, hey, I'd like to send my mother a Mother's Day best wishes, and then you get paid, I don't know, whatever you set your price, and if people want to meet it, they meet it or not. And then it can be a minute or something. I got to admit, I'm not even sure it doesn't have to, it's not that long or involved. It can just simply be hey, happy Mother's Day, Mrs. So-and-so, and your wonderful daughter sends her best. It's that simple. And actually, many of our social media colleagues, reality TV colleagues actually do this quite a bit. I know some that this is, one of their main streams of revenue, like income.
Actually, because it's so new, right? Isn't it a new phenomenon?
It's fairly new. But, for me personally, like, I like the idea. And to be frank, like if somebody approached me and really wanted
I'm going.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
Well, just calm
down.
No,
I tried to separate.
Sorry, 1 second.
They were fighting. I tried to separate the fight.
Yeah, I can tell.
But I'm going to do exercise, okay? Bye.
So good to see you always. Thanks for saying hello.
You're all right?
Yeah, I'm fine.
She had to fight.
Yes,
she had to break up a fight with the dogs.
Oh, you poor
No,
thing.
that's fine.
Oh no.
It was Percy, wasn't it?
No, Howie, I think.
Okay.
With his nails.
Poor girl.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
It's always good to see her. No, Juliana, we're going to have a discussion with you about this. We'll schedule a separate occasion, but I'm really curious about your perspectives on social media because you're such a veteran, meaning that you're very active on it. You really have extremely engaged following, and I think that a lot of folks are interested in hearing what you think about it. So please, let us know and we'll schedule it.
Okay.
It's a very good idea. And
yeah.
For her profession, and even the agency that she's now with, I mean, they let her be who she is, but they have they'll have feedback, recommendations, tips.
Sure.
But even the two of us, we talk about it for Juliana more than me. I think, she has a much more, let's say, public kind of profession, and her brand, being a public, aspiring to be the big international model. That's a much different thing than what I'm trying to achieve.
Absolutely.
So we actually, with Juliana, we're much more conscientious about her presentation and her, what I guess what you'd say, like her sort of presence in social media, realizing we have to be careful with, she gets inundated. I mean, I do too, but her times, 100, which is people wanting something from her and hoping, oh, hey, I'll send you this, and if you could wear it on a live or something, and something for free. And I don't blame people for trying, but Juliana and I, we've talked about it. Even if it had nothing to do with being reality TV people, she has to realize, actually, the kind of clients and accounts that her agency are representing and the kind of work she's trying to get. You're talking about, you want to work for Prada and Chanel and Louis Vuitton and Nike and, big brands. Don't give it away, all due respect. But of course, people are going to come nipping at your heels wanting something. And so Juliana is an enormously kind and gracious person. And that's actually a difficult thing for her, is to say no. But I think she's, with this, has realized, of course, people are going to ask for whatever they hope they can get. And you don't get what you don't ask for, so you can't blame them, but she can't give that away for free,
Absolutely. And again, social media is such a democratizing tool that anybody can reach out, especially if they have access to your DMs and such like that. But I'm sure the solicitations have to be enormous. And, Juliana is a brand, and protecting that brand is important. So unfortunately, it's probably quite a task, time-consuming task, to kind of fend and manage all the requests. She's in somewhat enviable position in a sense. She worked very hard for it, so by no means was it handed over. But by enviable position, I mean that she is such an extraordinary, attractive, and business-savvy individual. It's a confluence of factors that propelled her, in the place that she occupies right now in the world. I've had a brief discussion with her that I really want to continue, which is what it really takes, to make it in this world. And it's not just looks and such like that. And I think there's so much to uncover there. A lot of young women that aspire to be in that space, I don't think they have a faintest idea. I didn't. Not that I'm trying to get to be a model, but just the complex network of everything that has to work, and that game of chance, that just a set of circumstances is not enough for you to make it as a career. Anyway, it's all immensely complex and interesting. But, for the purposes of what we're discussing right now, that element of time and how much time she might spend on social media versus like really dealing with requests and all the fallout from that, and she still has a family to take care of. And I know she takes very good care.
Oh, you have no idea.
And she's so dedicated. I mean, you guys, you all should, well, I'm encouraging more trouble by saying you all should follow her. But really, it's not just very attractive photography, which, oh my God. But she posts recipes. And, she's just like, she's an amazing cook.
Yeah.
I don't know too many models that are actually, not that it's here or there, but it's not something that you think about when you think of a stunning woman. She's so hands-on. She's so nurturing that she has a really fun account. I love it.
And actually, Ilona, I think it's why she's been able to get where she is, because there is a different shine to her, if you will, a different humility, even, and a different like groundedness and humanness. And it's exactly why the agency that she signed with in New York, they're called the Society Management, and this is truly one of the best of the best. I mean, they may possibly, I mean, definitely one of the. We were talking about it. This is like signing with the New York Yankees, if you will, you know.
I mean,
And but actually, so much of why they want to take her on and want to invest in her talent is exactly for the stuff we're talking about. You know, it is her humility, it is her groundedness, it is her humanity, you know, because she has so much substance.
yes.
And there is story behind it, and there is such warmth and, again, humanness. That for their point of view, being the agency she signed with, is, you know, that's so much better than you can't develop that with somebody. You can't train them through that. You can't teach them. She's just who she is, and she's an enormously unique and wonderful human being. And I'm, you know, as her husband, but as just somebody who admires her, it's just so wonderful to see that finally, you know, these big dreams she had are, you know, opening up. But here we are, you know, literally she was this close to finally getting, you know, real jobs, big time jobs in New York, and then we have shutdown. So she's still keeping her head in it, taking care of herself. She speaks with her, the people at her agency, you know, at least text almost daily, but at least, you know, even having just catch up phone calls. Hey, how are you doing? They're really amazing people, you know. And, you know, for her, I think she is like that close to being able to even better share her life and story and her personality with the rest of the world. I think pretty soon, as you know, we start getting over COVID-19 or getting to some different reality and normalcy, she's finally going to get to work, and, you know, her story's going to get out there even more, you know.
You know, I can't wait. Honestly, I can't get enough of you guys for, you know, specific reason that I bring up every time, and it never like becomes less than what it always been from the beginning in our relationship, is that you're just great humans, and I cannot state and overstate it enough.
It's kind of you. Thank you.
And with Juliana, I mean, she's so beautiful on the inside as well, and I cannot wait to see her in magazines and print ads and whatever. I mean, I just, like I said, I can't get enough, and I know this thing will be over at some point in some form. So it's just kind of on the precipice of being this superstar, this household name. And I just, honestly, I'm so excited for both of you, and you're so proud. I know that. So, you know, social media can be that. Social media can mean following people like her.
Mm-hmm.
She's a very elevated individual, and, you know, she doesn't put on airs, but she really has that elegance in everything she does and brings to every medium.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's interesting to me how this cultural phenomena of social media that showed up so fast, and there's really no rules. There's no rules of engagement. There's no code of ethic. It's kind of a Wild West just online.
Wild West.
And you can make it what you want it to be. You could follow people like Juliana and really learn a lot, and just, it's a visual feast. It's so fun. Or you could, you know, go the other end of the spectrum. And you mentioned influencers. I know a little bit about that world as a journalist. You know, I've traveled with them, and trust me, there's nothing more boring than standing around with a group of influencers that's staging a shot for 5 or 6 hours just so they can have the right angle in front of the pool.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to learn something about the brand, because that's my journalistic work, and that the two don't coincide in any way, shape, or form. And then you see their feed, and it's like, it's so fake.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be unkind. I understand there's viewership for that as well, but please, you guys, if you're looking at those stage shots, excuse me, and spending your life scrolling through those, thinking, "I wish it could be me," I'm telling you, you don't. You can be in that exotic location and really unhappy because you're participating in something that has nothing to do with reality.
Oh my gosh, you couldn't say it better. And here, this is my conundrum personally, as somebody who has a little more of a public profile, and you're not sure what that means in terms of what people's expectations are, being in the public eye. But in my defense, was on participating in this reality show, and I have my reasons for that. It doesn't happen to be an influencer or to necessarily be in the position to hawk whatever I have to hawk. Some people are in music, some people are in whatever. Actually, to be frank, most people that, at least what I can tell, the larger percentage of people participating in like reality television, I don't know, most of them, a huge percentage don't really have much else going on, I guess. Maybe they're young and attractive and, no judgment. It's just what they are. I mean, for me, with the wine world, the wine stuff I have going on, other interests, there was never an ulterior motive of, okay, I'll do this. I have a platform, and then I'll blow out social media. I'll see how I can maximize Instagram followers and this and that and achieve some end. Frankly, no. I will say it's cool to have a lot of followers because what I like is the engagement I've had with a public of people who are mostly very cool. You post something, you can have comments or even exchange messages. And I like the human side of the social media and the scale that I'm fortunate to be able to enjoy by virtue of, having much more, being out there more, having profile and exposure. I like that. I haven't really personally used it as any utility to try to sell something or promote something. We were talking about like the Cameo idea.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting.
Well, and you'll see, and I'm not knocking it for those that use it. And I've made some really good dear friends who were also on the show, or some kind of, even if they weren't on our show, some kind of reality TV. And it's a great thing for them. And it is a good opportunity for them financially. They enjoy it, and that's cool, no judgment. But so, yeah, if you have a broad audience, you can push stuff like this, and so there you go. For me, I don't know. I haven't really thought about it in any way commercially, but I do like the idea that there is some kind of captive audience, and I just enjoy the engagement, even if it's not always good. It's okay. I've got, that's okay. For me, this is more, I'm much more somebody that I like what I would call like, the sociological experiments of things like this.
Absolutely. No, it's fascinating. And we'll just get the not good out of the way, the haters. I saw this meme recently. A guy says, "I watched my dog chase his tail for 15 minutes. And I thought to myself, boy, is my dog easily entertained." And then I realized I just watched my dog chase his tail for 15 minutes.
You're right. The question is, who was more entertained?
Exactly. So while you're complaining about somebody being a train wreck or whatever, you do realize that you've just spent, X number of hours watching them. So if it offends you so much, then just don't.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. And you know, for me, at least with the platforms we have, or this, you know, what Juliana and I have done to be a little more in the public eye. Yeah, you know, I'm not going to say we don't necessarily think about how is there some way to benefit from this, you know, at all.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, for Juliana, it's a much different thing than, you know, where I stand.
Of course.
But for now, I got to admit, it's been fun getting, I don't know, you know, messages, people wanting wine recommendations. We were talking about this the other day, you know, I love sharing that, and that's cool. Do I monetize it? I mean, I hate that word monetize. I mean, this just sounds so like, sadly, we're in this world that, you know, the lifeblood of everything is the flow of money, and I get it. You have to have that, but never as much as maybe there's some way I could set up something to say, okay, you know, sign up and for $20 I'll give you a wine recommendation. I don't, you know, I feel like an idiot doing that, you know. You know what I mean? I don't know why. I can't personally, it just feels disingenuous, you know?
Yes, no, I don't see you doing like a wine cameo. That's just not, I don't see the synergy between that concept and the Michael that I know. But people do love what you have to say. You have a huge career, huge background in wine. And we met because of wine, so I have a personal attachment. And, you know, the wine world is just, generally speaking, such, you know, a complex, comprehensive, wondrous territory that we always talk about how the more we talk about it, the more we even think we know, the more we realize that we don't, that there's so much more to say and think about. So you're such a thinker that I could see the fact that world and you naturally collide all the time. So it's just part of the fabric of who you are, and you can't separate the two. And you've been exposed to some of the most phenomenal wines. And some of the questions that we got during the live piece of it on Instagram was like, what's a good red wine? Like, if you were to buy a good red wine, what would you get? And it's like, oh my God, that is such a difficult question.
It is enormously difficult.
Because it's endless. The answers could be this, that, the other thing. Or wait, there could be any number of wines that would fall into good red wine category.